It's the same old story. It's been a long day at the job, or maybe it's just starting to feel long, and you feel that urge to stretch your legs and get a little bit of a break. You walk down the street, or maybe you get behind the wheel of your car, and you feel the weight begin to lift. You walk through the doors, and the sound of the place starts to clear the air. You get a table, you order your drink, you listen to the sounds of the bar, and soak in the conversation. Welcome to the TNE Speakeasy with your hosts, Caleb and Isaac. Listen in as they discuss their experience with extreme horror films, 2023 summer films, and time travel plots. For this interest in these ultra-violent OVAs, because I feel like you didn't have necessarily a pull to ultra-violent, just live action horror. Yeah, well, when did this start for you? Was this within the past 4 or 5 years, or some that was there earlier?
Good question. I think you're right. I think it's similar to I was listening to our Thing episode, like the John Carpenter's The Thing episode recently, and it was like I said, I was fascinated with the kind of horror elements, the unnatural, alien or aliens, The Thing, and then Leviathan. Not that I would count that as horror, but just this very weird body horror imagery and stuff like that. And when you introduced me to Nausicaa and not just Nausicaa, but most of Miyazaki, Ghost in the Shell, and Akira, especially Akira, I assume you basically just show this all to me, and I went in my own direction. I was just like, all right, take me somewhere. And so I just kept searching all these 80s animes, and I was very fascinated by how they looked, all the hand-drawn aspects of it, the colors as well, and how beautiful they look. And that's where I eventually found Anime Abandon, although I technically had learned of him years earlier, I believe, but now I actually started watching the stuff he was reviewing, because I never thought all this stuff is available online, because nobody's gonna want to market this to people, right? I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I can. So I watched like I said, Wicked City, and I was kind of disturbed by it in a way. Now it's just still disturbed by it in a certain way, but I kind of like the body horror. It's very weird. It's unnatural. It's unsettling. It's alluring in a way.
Yeah, no, that stuff's excellent in that movie. It's just all the other stuff that just puts me off.
Yes, icky. Don't worry, it's not sexual to me. I don't get off to that kind of stuff. There's probably a person who does get off to that, but no, it's just something that maybe I wasn't, introduced to by as a kid. I didn't go out and search this. I didn't even know it existed. So I don't know if it's ignorance or just you didn't know. You go up to the street and still show some random person Wicked City. They're like, "What the flip is this? What the hey are you showing me here? What utter nonsense is this?"
Some strange animation.
You're not wrong there. So yeah, it largely is you. It's kind of everybody's. I think it's a similar story to everybody has, where it's just oh yeah, my friend got me into anime. I mean, are you asking me as well my origins of anime? I think you're not. That's just how did you get into all these into all this stuff,
the ultra-violent side. Yeah,
I mean, it's also maybe my hope of there's that false hope that Eric talks about of you hope you want to watch something and hope that things turn out differently in the end, there's an alternate ending to it. But no, you want to go in. It's a weird, I don't know, fascination is the word, but it's a weird thing, right? Where you're watching the film and you're attracted to it because you want to watch the despair and the cynicism, maybe, or especially if it involves a lot of horror imagery and ultra-violent stuff against mostly women as well. You're just I really feel bad. And is that also maybe somehow misogynistic to see, even though I don't want to see women in these, like, life threatening situations. Is it somehow also like psychological of like, you, even though I don't want to see it, I'm also still watching it anyways? Like, it's weird, right? Like, because usually my morals are like, I can't watch this because I don't agree with the intent and what they're showing me on screen, and I still do. So it's,
Hmm.
am I going somewhere with this, or am I just rambling?
Yeah, and I guess this relates to my when I think we've talked about when I started getting into movie collecting. It was around like 2008, and I'd I guess in a way grown up watching, even though it had only been like 2 years, but those were impactful 2 years. I was like 12, watching the Cool Duder YouTube channel, and he was a giant horror fan, and he had so many like fascinating releases and movies I'd never heard of. And even back then, even though I was 12, I was doing the same thing I do now, which is compiling massive lists of just things to check out. And I actually have them all because it was in notebooks, and so I have those lists now. And yeah, I was always attracted to the horror movies that I'd never heard of that he would be like, "Oh yeah, this one I wouldn't recommend to most of you. This is some disturbing stuff. Like it's kind of cool, but it's not for everyone." That's the stuff that I would highlight and be like, "I need to check that out." And once I started getting into them, probably around like 2010, it was just like a strange attraction repulsion, and it was like testing the boundaries. How far can I go, and how far can these movies go? Is there going to be one that's so disturbing that it'll put me off of this stuff for good? And unfortunately, eventually I found those movies, and they did put me off, and I left that side of horror for many years, and I've never really come back to it fully. But yeah, there was something about just testing those boundaries of finding the most disturbing stuff you can that was just really compelling for that window.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have that triggering point, or at least that bar. There is that bar where you're like, do not cross. Like, I can't go any further.
And I guess I'll say for my bars, it was a couple of them in a row, ending with I believe it's French Canadian film Martyrs. But the first one that really started to just set it off big time was these vomit gore films. They're all put out by the same guy, and it was clear like his sick fetish of just women being horribly brutalized, vomiting all over the place, lots of grotesque sexual assault. And they're called I think the first one was called Vomit Murder Dolls,
Jeez.
and yeah, those were some really just repulsive stuff. And then I followed that up, unfortunately, by watching Salò, 120 Days of Sodom, which is a much more artful Italian, just torture gore picture. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you're going to check out any of these types of movies, that one at least has some interesting commentary. And then, yeah, then Cannibal Holocaust and a Serbian film. A Serbian film is, yeah, a really, really nasty one. I would not recommend that to anyone at all. And then, yeah, Martyrs, which is another one that's really artful that I would recommend, but it is some real just lingering on torture and just brutality, and it's extremely unpleasant. And yeah, it was. I watched all those movies in a row, and it was like, okay, this interest that I had in checking this stuff out, I feel like it's dead. It just killed me. Those movies all in a row, not on the same day, mind you, but it was just making my way through my list, and that grouping just happened to be all paired up, and oof.
I would not recommend people eat or drink during the viewings of those films that he mentions.
And I do wonder because I've got a horrible issue with vomiting on screen or in real life. Whenever I'm in a theater and people are vomiting on the movie screen, I have to cover my eyes, which made Triangle of Sadness very difficult to watch in the theater. I actually got up and left the theater. I was like, oh, I have to use the washroom. It was just I could not sit through that long experience of many people vomiting. But I do wonder if that disgusting little trilogy, that sick dude, I swear that was his fetish. It felt like a fetish film. And yeah, I wonder if that gave me an issue permanently with vomit after seeing that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's weird. Like, for me, the big touted film that, gross out film, or whatever you want to call it, that was, making the rounds, that I was, I still have yet to see, was like the human centipede. I remember that was, but that was also maybe for like the meme or the joke of just
Yeah.
like, oh, you know, they like he attaches people by like anus to mouth or whatever, and like to make this human centipede. And I have never actually seen it, but I was only aware of it for the joke. And it did like I'm actually okay with not seeing it because I kind of want it to like linger in my imagination. The like my imagination, like the version I have in my head, is probably more.
Yes.
Well, I don't want to say better than what's on screen, but there's a lot more.
It'll be more disturbing than what's the movie actually is.
Yes, that's a thing of like you don't have to always watch movies. You can just get the premise of it and then let your imagination run wild, and that's the whole like nothing is scarier because leave it to your imagination and you're like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah, and that first one strangely almost plays like a really really dark comedy. So it's not too bad. The second one is another one of those ones that's just kind of repulsive and it's like, oh man, just grotesque.
This was made to gross people out. This was made to maybe hurt some people as well, like make them feel violated. And uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and that was another thing is I started to wonder what's the intent behind these movies. I started wondering in fearing the filmmakers behind them, like especially once I started getting more into like exploitation and learning about the backgrounds of those, and a lot of really fucked up directors in that regard. And I started to wonder, these really sick, disturbing movies, like how much of that is like I said about the guy who I thought had that fetish. I was like, is he getting off to this? And that just really really grossed me out.
So I don't want to take a lambasting approach and just say like these should be banned. These should be
No, no.
okay. Because I've always also been fascinated by exploitation films, but I never want to watch them because the descriptions you give me of some of them are just like, I'm not going to because it's just like I can't. Like I don't think I could sit in a room watching whether or not the actor gave consent a woman be tortured on screen. I'm like,
Mm.
I can't agree with that. I wonder if it's not only testing the boundaries. That's another word. I wonder if it's confronting and overcoming one's innate fear.
Mm.
I wonder if that may also be an idea. Maybe I'm like giving these people too much credit, and it's also they're just wanting to, play out their fetishes. But I mean, what if that is the case as well, where all these people are trying to, as cynical as it is, they're trying to display like the horrors of what again, like displaying the horrors of what humans can do to people fictitiously, and if anything in real life mirrors that at all.
Yeah, and some of them, like I mentioned with the Solo, that one feeling like it has more of a social commentary. That one, it was, I believe, it was the end of the Second World War. Although I can't remember the full details. I saw it about probably like 12 years ago. But it was these rich people from the government all kind of just being like, okay, things are about to fall apart for us big time. Let's bring in a bunch of very, very poor teenagers and let's just have a weekend of just grotesque debauchery, doing whatever
Oh
we want
no.
to them.
Oh golly.
And so it was a commentary about how much the fascists just destroyed Italy and what they had done to the morale and the physical violence done to them. But they're like making the kids eat shit and
Oh,
horrible
good grief.
killings, and yeah, it's
I'll just ask how many of them are banging them.
yeah, a lot of that. Yeah, a
Ah,
lot of that, and
wouldn't
it's
surprise
just
me.
really sick.
Again, is it is it trying to tell audience members, general audience members, even though general audience members would never see this, but is it trying to exist just to say that this, like these acts that are performed in this fictitious work, maybe they're fictitious or not, they do happen in real life, and you have to understand like that's the problem with us.
Mm.
I don't know. I came across that idea just now. Maybe this is a common thread in college or university papers and essays. Maybe like again, there's a reason for all this stuff, right?
And there's at least one film that I can think of that definitely suits what you're saying there. I may have mentioned it before. One of my favorite filmmakers, Gaspar Noé.
You've mentioned it before.
One of his early breakout films was called Irreversible, and it was a revenge film shot in reverse. We start the last frame, the vengeance,
Ooh.
and then we at the beginning of the movie We see the well, at least it's more like the maybe 20 minutes before the beginning. We see the horrible act of violence that began the revenge, and it's a 7 minute long, incredibly uh, uncomfortable rape scene. And the director said he did it that way to show, what the like we start off with a brutal killing, the revenge, and it's like, oh my god, like this main character, like this guy's he's an animal, this brutal murder. But then you see what was the impetus of it, and it's like, was it the brutality that he came to, was it justified, even though we just experienced this horrible rape scene? Can we forgive the character for the horrible violence that he came to the end, and just forcing you to confront, rape is kind of one of those things that for people who haven't experienced it, it's just kind of a vague thing. You can't really be fully confronted with it. And even the movie, of course, can't fully confront you with it either. But they tried their hardest to make you be right there with it. And it's, as much as I love that filmmaker, I probably won't watch that film again unless we cover it, because it's just too difficult to sit through. But I think it was an interesting kind of a question for a revenge movie, making you start with the horrible act of violence, and do you eventually come to sympathize with the character for what they did?
That definitely sounds very tasteful. I know that's pardon me. I know I've not witnessed and
Yeah.
experienced what you've seen through your eyes. Again, I'm going into this not knowing what it is, but saying that really sounds interesting, experimental, and I like that premise alone. But obviously, yeah, the acts of sexual violations, yeah, probably are very grim, and it definitely sticks to the idea of everybody immediately assuming that the killer is evil, immediately going with the emotions and not being unbiased or like judging the situation slowly, and then seeing why it happened. Not again, not to again, it's ugly. It's like very complicated issue of
Hmm.
like, and that's what us humans have come up with this idea called morality.
Yeah.
So fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, people. A really, really mixed bag, leaning bad, is what I would say.
Yeah, we're. Sometimes I just wonder, like, how we all came to this. Like, where why are we here, and where did this all come from? It's so just that, like a person, like as a kid and then as a teenager and as an adult, you are put here, and there's all this information, all this history that you don't know about. Sorry, like that's just so weird, man. Like thinking about it now, it's just like there's all this history that we don't know, and all these memories that people have that are gone now because they've passed away. Like, wow, makes you wonder, eh?
Yeah, 'cause I always said the end of humanity, the thing that changed the world forever, at least for as long as humans continue to exist, was the discovery of fire. I think that in some way broke whatever we were before. But we'll never know, because there was no written history of what we were before. So I always wonder, had we not discovered fire, would we be completely different now? What were we then? And yeah, it's interesting.
I don't I don't know if I've mentioned this on the channel yet, or on yeah on our yeah on our in this channel or on record, but I remember one of my former coworkers, he was always into watching YouTube videos of like random stuff, and either Rogan's podcast or something else, and having all these personalities or these experts come in and talk about stuff, and these different structures from human history that we can never reproduce, like similar
Mm,
to say the pyramids, and
hmm.
some of the temples in the Amazon rainforest and those areas, such as those things. And it got me thinking, like, in that moment, I came up with the idea of, like, or maybe he also came up with, like, it's interesting how those civilizations and cultures went down this path, and, we didn't, we can't recreate that. I'm just like, well, what if we went down this path, the industrial path,
Mm,
and we just can't go back. Like it's like a choose your own adventure or an RPG where you choose a class, and you're locked out of going to the other class, or classes, excuse me. So it's like we've chosen the industrial route, and now we obviously have the ability to split the atom and go into space.
yeah.
So, but we've lost the ability to do all that other stuff. So if human history had gone a different path, it would have ended up we would have. similarly been in a similar position to what the Egyptians were doing potentially, or the Greeks were doing, and maybe also what the civilizations in the Amazon were doing as well, with all these like stone technology almost. It
Hmm.
wouldn't obviously be recording potentially, but at the same time, like we wouldn't be having podcasts, but at the same time, we would have gotten so much other stuff. We would have probably never had. I would be so fascinated if we could somehow end up in the stars through stone technology. Probably not, but hey, it would be. That's what fiction's for. Is somebody's
There you
probably come
go.
up with that idea right there of just like, could you get to the moon with just like stones?
Yeah, no, that is interesting. Hmm.
And I do wonder if a reset will ever happen with humanity and we'll go down a different path. Um, I mean, maybe I think that might happen one day where
Yeah.
somehow technology will, or the industrial age will end, similar to in was it similar to in Nausicaa where like the industrial age, yeah, just like that, the industrial age is over, and now begins a new era.
Yeah, we'll awaken these ancient god beast guys.
Well, no, remember that was, well, that's a different thing. But like, remember the God Warriors, as they are called in the comic and in the Japanese version, they were created by man. They are like
Oh
one of,
yes,
they are
yes.
one of next to the nuclear, next to nukes. They are one of the downfalls of humanity itself. It was the how do I put this? It was the apex, the zenith of human technology, creating those God Warriors, and it was the 7 days of fire that resulted from them, where they basically destroyed the world.
Yeah, I got to go back. I think the last time I watched it was the last time we saw in the theater together.
I'm also just thinking of what is it? Like I'm remembering the comic as well, since it goes into that more also. But yeah, I mean, that's the idea of like, will we create something, beyond just a nuke, and that will also be our downfall?
Yeah, I would not be surprised. Not be surprised at all.
I think maybe a like the okay, we haven't really talked about it yet, but like the ideas of AI, um, and the people creating using them for the intentions of misinformation. I think that also could lead to nukes, but I don't know if that would. Again, does that mean AI is the problem? Doesn't it go back to the person itself? But does it also go back to the? I think it's a number of things, right? Because it's the environment that we have no, like there's no control over the AI, again similar to gun control potentially, but it's also the person's like intent as well, but like what made people uh, decide to have these intentions. It's not an easy topic, isn't it?
Yeah, I think part of the big problem is people playing with technology and that they just don't understand. And that's a huge part of the AI boom, and intentionally so. They're like, we're just going to lay these ground rules. We don't know where it could possibly go, but we're open sourcing it so we can try to let other people help us guide it and help us develop new things, which is a cool thing for technology being so kind of open source in that way. But yeah, there's so many different directions that these things could go in. It doesn't really seem like there's much a potential accountability. So
Yeah, it's similar to having Batman or Superman or any Marvel or DC character be free domain, where it's just like anybody can do whatever they want with this character, just like Dracula or Frankenstein's monster, or Sherlock Holmes, etc.
yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Where it's just like, what do you want to do with your AI?
Yeah, and perhaps I actually don't know if this is an AI movie, but one of them says AI City in my anime list here.
AI City.
But there's no dot. It just says like I City,
That could be a name.
I think. At least that's the way I wrote it. Let me quickly look it up.
Not AI Girl.
AI girl, not
Is it AI Video Girl? No, I don't remember. It was something. I think it's related to no Video Girl AI. That's what it was. Video Girl AI.
oh. Oh yeah, this looks like it's I City. The AI is yeah, name.
Okay.
Oh, still looks pretty damn cool though. Huh.
Is it from the 80s or 90s?
Yeah, 86.
86. There you go.
Oh, but I guess I'll mention I did go see the new Indiana Jones movie.
Have you seen Spider Verse yet? Or
Nope, still haven't seen it.
Across the Spider Verse? There we go. Okay.
Unfortunately not. I don't know if I want to go too much into it, but I was just curious if you'd seen it yet.
Yeah, because I haven't seen it yet. It's not like I'm not going to. It's just like
Sure.
I don't know if I will give you the whole rundown, but what have you
No,
watched any
yeah.
other movies or?
I saw Asteroid City.
I also want to see that, so maybe I'll hold off on that as
Yeah, we
well.
can hold off for that too. Yeah.
I don't know.
But I just figured I'd mention. I was curious if you'd seen either one of them yet. So
Oh, I forgot to. I should have made a. I forgot to make a joke in Dragon's Heaven, where it's just like, hey, it's a person in a suit of armor where I'm okay with, unlike Transformers: Rise of the Beast. That was terribly worded.
yeah, it was certainly better than that. Both looked in their way silly, but one of them was more fun. The other one was just like kind of embarrassing.
Nothing on the actor. It's just like the direction
No,
of like making him mini Jazz or not Jazz. Sorry, mini Mirage was one I didn't agree with, but they did it anyways.
and somehow he was more competitive than most of the people who were just regular Transformers. So that somehow makes sense.
He was human sized. That's why.
Yeah, he was too surprised. Like, oh, he's so small, so he didn't know what to do with him.
All right. Here's a little question. Maybe I don't know if it'll go anywhere, but one thing I think I forgot to mention in the Flash is did the Flash 2023 leave the status quo intact, or was the status quo um, the same by the end of the movie?
Yeah, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say the status quo has changed. Yeah, and I think they kind of hinted that he, at this point, maybe couldn't find his way back because he thought he'd fixed it, but even the most minor change. So maybe just the fact that he had changed anything at all, maybe his way back was gone. I don't know.
So a lot of people subscribe to the idea of, or there are groups of people who believe that status quo should always be changed, or the status quo should always be broken and never, remain. There we go. Is this movie is the Flash secretly against the idea of change and just straightforward status quo, or did it leave a did it give a different approach to the status quo?
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so I guess what is the status quo? I guess in the way Barry Allen could have gone back in time and stopped Hitler from ever becoming, could stopped the Nazi Party from forming. He could have, I don't know, stopped a bunch of other disasters from occurring as well, and fixing things in the past, and maybe also going back in time and changing any of his rogues gallery if he had any in this franchise, stopping them from ever committing lives of crime, going down that path. Subtle changes to the time. Like that's the idea of changing the status quo from what it is in his present.
Hmm.
Is the Flash 2023 making an argument for that the status quo is a good thing or not a good thing?
Huh. Well, I think in terms of the intent of the movie, it was always meant to create a new status quo.
Okay.
But in terms of in the actual story itself, I don't know. I don't really know if, yeah, I don't know if I have an answer for that.
That's fair. We see, I guess, another example in Marvel. We always see that, this is me echoing a certain video out there, but as they're saying, and I'm torn between what that video's intents are, but at least the intention of that video was, Marvel MCU characters are very much defenders of the status quo, where they're not really making any changes to the entire world itself. They're not using their powers to help social programs or whatever it is, and to abolish, you know, whatever powers and control. They're only there to be reactionary and instead of being proactive. I think you know what group I'm referring to, by the way.
Uh, uh, the uh, uh, the Justice Society of America from Black Adam.
I like the Justice Society of America. What are you talking about?
From Black Adam, when they were like, "Oh, we don't want to help this poor." But no, I think I get what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah, I think you know what I mean.
but where was this going in regards to the Flash?
I think, well, just the idea of is the Flash pro status quo or is it anti status quo? And I probably should be a little bit more detailed than that.
Yeah, because again, I even before the version that we got now, when they were first discussing it back after Justice League came out, they always intended it to be like a big focal point of things changing and getting kind of a new direction. And now that they were kind of using it as an introduction for a whole new continuity, yeah, definitely in terms of the use of the movie, they wanted to be a status quo breaker. But yeah, within the story itself, because Barry, I guess he was against the status quo of his mom being dead. So
Yes, there is that.
in that regard,
And it's what the writers were, talking about in that case. Because, I mean, shouldn't we be also talking about the writers of this? Of like, hey,
yeah,
if status quo change should be like, you guys got to be thinking about this instead of like his mom dying.
yeah,
Like, why isn't he going back in time so that we like in America have like universal health care?
yeah. He goes back and runs for the presidency, and
Or he
yeah,
puts people in office and makes sure they win. Like he literally like runs and gets everybody's ballots that they all voted for. So it's like a landslide for whoever wins and who's gonna be like for universal healthcare instead.
oh wow, now you're going in a dark direction. Yeah, that he's just going through time, completely reshaping the country.
There's a
Where's
there's a
the
ti- there's a time travel plot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where's the Flash arc of that where he goes really dark and he's just shadow running the world for
What reverse Flash could do.
yeah, he's like, oh, or even Barry just being like, I'm so tired of these ills of the world. There's so many ways we could easily fix it, and then just goes and tries to do it, and it all goes wrong and blows up in his face.
Yeah, and he's like, all right, no kill rule. So instead, I'll like, do loophole abuse where it's just like, instead of, changing people's opinions of politicians, I'll just take all the ballots away. And which also, I guess, is a comment on, the election system.
Yeah, yeah, no, they could do that. Yeah, no, yeah, that's interesting. I feel like that could be an interesting story, even if it's like an Elseworlds, like out of continuity story. Like, I can see in the style of like a Colin Bunn, like the Deadpool destroys the Marvel universe, where he just realizes like, oh, all these ills, I could solve them if I just step outside of what I would normally be accepted to do. Because in a way, that power from the Flash is kind of like a god power if
Yep.
you use it right. So
Thankfully, it's with this goofy kid.
exactly.
That's the whole thing. Well, again, yeah, he's so Spider-Man, isn't he?
Yeah, no, I could see it. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm excited to get to our Flash series because I've really not read much Flash at all.
Yeah, no, same with me. I admit I haven't like read a lot of Flash either. So I think it depends. I wonder if we should sample certain arcs, and I do mean like comic arcs, from
Hmm.
different eras. So like one from 60s, 70s, the 80s and 90s, just to get a different flavor from each series because he doesn't have the like Superman for all seasons. He doesn't have something like that, or at least maybe I don't know that.
Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know if he has like big famous, little arcs or individual graphic novels or runs. I don't know anything about his comic history.
That was terrible. That was terrible.
Oh, what was?
You said runs.
Oh, come on. Yeah,
Gotta explain myself here. What the heck?
yeah, I should have gotten that.
Hey, don't worry. Like, I'm a hypocrite. Like, there's so many things that go over my head. I'm like, upon listening to it later on, I'm just like, I should have gotten that.
Oh, I get that all the time. Absolutely. And I just feel like I wish I can go back and just put something else in there, but that doesn't feel fair.
Yeah, no, that's not fair for me either to like come back after the fact and be like, okay, hang on, I still have something left. There's still like stuff left on the table.
Yeah.
I was just looking at my notes here, and for the Avatar, I had two lines I was gonna say, or two quips for the Avatar and the Painted Lady episode. One was when Katara shows up as the Painted Lady. I was gonna go, "Excuse me, are you the Tooth Fairy, or are you an angel?"
Oh no, Anakin.
So yeah, that one's Anakin. The other one, the Tooth Fairy, that's from Transformers '07. When I think
Oh,
it's Optimus
interesting.
Prime who gets out of the pool and that little girl's there, and she goes like, "Are you the Tooth Fairy?"
Oh, I don't remember that. Mm.
Yeah, you don't remember that one. And the second one was gonna be only this guy would get it, and I don't even know if he still gets it if I say it. I gotta if I slur it, it'll make sense, but I'll just say it for now. Like, hey, or so I guess like as an aside, we'll just be like we focus on these like two characters over here. Or no, the boomerangs go past this one character, and he goes, "Hey, you know when they're going to turn the water back on?"
Oh man, this yeah. What is this? This sounds familiar, but
That's so. This is a really obscure reference, but Caleb and I years ago played Borderlands 1 on the 360,
oh
which
yes,
was
okay.
so like an experience and a I think a
A bonding experience.
friendship building. Yeah, bond. Yeah, it was a bonding for both of us, and I forget which town it was, but there were like it was one of the main hub towns, and he whenever we went in there was this NPC who with like this southern accent would just go like, hey, you know when they gonna turn the water back on? And I don't know what, either it was the delivery, he didn't have like a face, like he had like a bandana around his face, so you didn't see, there was no like lip sync, but for some reason it just was the most hilarious thing to me, and I missed the opportunity to say that in the Painted Lady, and I'm kicking
Oh
myself for not saying. Well, I wrote it down, but I forgot to like look at my notes of that episode, so I'm kicking myself now for that reason.
yeah, I gotta save it. They still go from town to town. Might be a use for it.
But it worked in this episode because it was all sludge filled.
That's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, I probably might be able to save it for another episode. But yeah, hopefully that one was for you, man. That was like immediately for you. Just hoping that you would like have gotten that reference, and much to your annoyance.
Oh yeah, I was like slap happy through a lot of that game, just getting through it.
Oh, you were pucking like you were. Yeah, you were like. I don't know if you were drunk or not, because I don't remember if that
No, I don't think so.
was at the time you were
I,
still driving me home. I still
yeah.
can't believe you were doing that. That was so courteous of you.
Hey, what am I gonna drive you to a bus stop?
I don't know if I've talked about this yet, but I think we meant well, okay. I've mentioned it, or I okay. So I came up with this thought like a while ago, and so okay, here it goes. So this is based off the Godwin's law, which I mentioned a while ago, between Sean and Eric, about as an online discussion grows longer, the probability of a comparison involving Nazis or Hitler approaches one. And the whole thing of like, as soon as that happens, where you compare some, you're not using the Nazis in like a either as like an example, not to compare the person. Well, I said comparison, but if you're using it as an example for something else, that's fine. But if you're calling somebody else like a Nazi, that's when the argument's over and we're done. Like the person no longer has a valid opinion or argument in the matter. I thought of this one of as an ongoing long-running fictitious series continues, the probability of reaching time travel or multiverse stories inevitably happens.
Yeah, it's quite prevalent. Quite prevalent.
This is not this okay, this is sort of DC already does this. I think they've done this like originally, so I'm gonna exit them out. Like that's like they're excused from this argument, even though I guess you could still put the blame on them. But even still, what recent media or what medias can you think that comic book, like I said, any fictitious media otherwise, that have run the well dry and they're like time travel multiverse go?
Uh, I don't know.
Rick and Morty does not count because that was inherent from the start.
Well, of course, the first one I think of is Lost,
Yes.
because the fifth season entirely was prequel, or not prequel, but in the past. The mystery that we've been learning about this whole season, it turns out our characters were there in the past doing it. So that was something.
Going off on Lost, some of the I guess production guys or some of the guys in the production of that went on to create the series Once Upon a Time, if you've ever heard that one,
Yep.
and that also reached multiverse and time travel status, also in that series several times.
Oh, interesting.
Again, it was almost like a comic on screen, so not a comic on screen, but it was also kind of similar to like a comic book as well. So that eventually got there. Even though, okay, to be fair, it was always a two worlds thing, but they went multiverse when it came to like different versions of each character. Even though that in of itself is probably not a bad thing, not a bad thing, but that's not an inherently terrible thing because there's always different versions of different characters. So like there's always like different versions of Snow White. Even though there's the original one, there's also like the Disney version, and there's like something else.
Yeah, and another one's Supernatural.
Oh,
They eventually went to the time travel.
like how many seasons are we talking about here?
I think it was season 6 when they did it the first time. Somehow they got snapped back to be with their parents when they were learning about that stuff, and yeah, that's not the most successful. And they were there for a while too, if my memory is correct.
Again, I'm thinking like well, I stated outright of like we're thinking long running series here. Now this could also be entries, for instance, like I can think of Mortal Kombat, for instance. In Mortal Kombat 11, they did time travel.
Mm.
And the new one coming out, Mortal Kombat 1, is the result of the story in that 11 where it's now like they basically rebooted
Okay.
because of time travel. So they kind of pulled a Crisis on Infinite Earths or Flashpoint.
Oh, okay. And it is a useful tactic in that way. So
It is. I don't want to. Okay, the intent almost when I came up with that statement does kind of sound negative and cynical.
yeah,
I will fully admit because it's just like I literally just said like well running out of the wells run dry. Like we've run out of ideas and time travel
yeah.
and multiverse. Let's like just bring in our other character. I guess Sonic the Hedgehog kind of did that with Generations.
Like multiverse stuff.
I guess either multiverse, but we have Sonic from the Genesis, like '90s Sonic. See, like with yeah, I guess it is M with multiverse with like modern day Sonic,
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I never played that game, but
and then oh, I guess you never did. I think Johnny will come with me on this one. Would know what I'm talking about. But like, and the same thing with the next game, not the next game, but one of the next games was Sonic Forces, which has a similar thing where all of a sudden like Sonic's gone. Like that's one of the things in that game is where like Sonic either died or he's just missing, and then Tails is cornered by like Eggman's robots, and then all of a sudden like classic like doesn't talk Sonic shows up. It's like what the flip? Where'd this come from?
I'm trying to think of some other time travel examples. Well, James Bond's never done it. Not yet.
Yet.
I mean, I guess Harry Potter went there in the third entry.
That was okay. That was I don't know if it, I don't know if I say cleverly done, but at least from the movie, they at least tried to keep it plausible and grounded.
Yep. Yeah, and it's a world with magic, so it fits well enough.
It's just that nobody's done that yet because there's obvious like I think that book made a point of like you can't time travel or else.
Yeah.
You can view into
And
the past, but you can't like actually travel back in time.
and even though it was a joke, it doesn't really count. Star Wars did go there with the Lego Star Wars Christmas special. So
Yeah, yeah, no, that is true. I can't deny that. That is those two things, by the way, are the. I made a list years ago of this. I probably find it, but I made a list of like 5 things that Star Wars can never do, like that you should like never touch on in Star Wars, and both of the like 2 of those things were time travel and multiverse.
Hmm.
It's like no, like let's stay away from that stuff.
yeah, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but do you know you've seen the trailer for the new Indiana Jones, right?
Dial of Destiny, where he goes back in time.
Yeah, well, I won't spoil what happens there, but that one, yeah, it is wrapping itself up in a time travel kind of artifact. So
That's fair. I'm not gonna don't worry. Like that kind of because it's the '60s, right? Like it starts in the '60s, and then like he goes back, I think, to like the 45 when they like win the war.
well, I'm not going to give away any of the details, but just to say that's another franchise that falls
Okay.
into this. Yeah,
Okay.
whether they use it or not, I won't say, but yeah, it's
I don't know if they had used it prior at all.
in Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, again, we've not
No.
really like I've not read the comics nor the other books, so I don't
Oh, I
think
see.
they went into that stuff. I doubt the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles went
Yeah,
into that.
yeah, probably not.
Has that gotten on Disney Plus yet? I thought I read somewhere that they're gonna put it on there.
At this point, I don't think they would because they're apparently starved for saving money on server space. But
Oh, that's why. Okay.
well, they removed Willow and a whole bunch of other random stuff. So
Well, that's a shame, but also to be expected given the like catalog that Disney has.
yeah. Oh, weird. Hmm. Yeah, no, I guess they don't have it on here. That's too bad.
You know, my sibling was kind of annoyed at me for saying that it was on there when I thought I saw an article saying like it's finally on here.
I'm surprised those episodes aren't on YouTube. Maybe I'll quickly look.
Like probably you have to pay for them, but not for free.
Oh no, there looks like they're maybe not all of them are here, but yeah, they are on here for free.
Really?
Because yeah, this playlist says, oh wow, they put it in chronological order. That's funny.
Isn't that incorrect according to your? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you know about that, right? That
Yeah.
Lucas pulled that out again. What a
Well,
strange guy.
I sort of know what. Okay, I think I'm more forgiving with Indiana Jones than like Star Wars or with CG Wars because I could sort of see what Lucas is doing. Like maybe it is like a serial thing, right? Where we just catch up to like the hero in each adventure. So it's like in each point in time. So it's like I guess this could work, but maybe you're right in that like I don't know if the original Flash Gordon serials, had him take place several years earlier, and then it's like here we are now. It's like huh.
Well, my theory always was because he did it with the original trilogy of them, and so he just wanted to recreate that with the show. Considering he put a prequel right in the middle with Temple of Doom.
Oh right, okay, yes.
So I thought maybe he felt like he had to keep that consistent, but I guess once I found that he did it with Clone Wars too, I was like, wow, no, I guess this is just his style for TV.
Hey, at least Filoni didn't take that from CG Wars and put it into Mandalorian.
Oh my god, yeah, no, that's fair.
That's at least one of the good things that Dave Filoni did not do, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that would have been jarring because every now and again we'll see flashbacks to the kid Mandalorian. If we were just switching off and getting him as the protagonist every now and again, I would have been like, what the hell?
Now that's not to say you can't do a like a. I don't know how you feel about flashback episodes, but we couldn't do like a flashback episode, for instance.
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily. I don't think we need it for that show, but if they did do it, maybe they could make it work. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like again if the story is there and needs to be told, sure, do it. But like, yeah, all of a sudden, just like and here we go. Unless like they're doing a juxtaposition between like what's happening in the present and the past, unless that's just too gaudy and is a gimmick and doesn't work anymore.
Well, back to your question. I've never seen this myself, but I believe Eric told me this that the J.J. Abrams show Felicity near the very end. I don't even think he said it was necessarily time travel. It just was some sort of weird contrivance that the main character was like put back into her body from the first season, and it was like suddenly like a sci-fi twist, and she was like, "Oh no, what's going on?" And she was like back at the start of the show.
Okay,
I think
now
he told me that.
Felicity, how many seasons did that have?
I think it was like 4. I think.
Okay, I'm talking long running series here.
Hmm.
Like, and the question is, was that the intent from the start?
Yeah, I got no clue. That's yeah.
But if you did just say J.J. Abrams, I wouldn't put it across him like with the whole mystery box idea. I'm like, I don't know. That one's a I don't know if I'll count that one. I mean, you can if you want, but I'm like, I don't know, because like this is the wells run dry. This is not like time travel. Let's
Hmm.
do that.
Yeah.
Well, or maybe that is what I just said. Never mind.
But can you think of any other examples? I think I'm mostly tapped. I mean, I guess there's one more that I can think of. Another movie franchise.
I'll bring this up again at some point. I definitely want to bring this up with Sean, Eric, and Steve to see what they have to say, because that's the whole idea. Is that you and I also when I did write that, I've had series in mind, but I forgot to write them down, or I didn't write them down, and I thought of them, but I've probably forgotten them as of now. So
Yeah.
maybe at one point I'll like come back to this art. But yeah, this statement can be said to many people, and they can think of their respective series. Um, Oh, and Terminator doesn't count. Well,
No.
it's that's a
Well,
weird. Well, that's a weird one because of the like continuity, not errors, but at least like trying to reboot or at least
yeah.
redo each one. So I don't know if that counts.
And in terms of a long running series, I think Genesis was the fifth entry, and yeah, it does become a weird, different kind of time travel plot.
That one also tried to reboot, but
Yeah,
too.
because it wasn't just going back in time; it was going back in time, and we're suddenly seeing the same character, and history's changed. And yeah, no, that I think that counts.
You know what I want? I want a an ongoing comic series between that has both divergent time periods of the Genesis universe and then the Dark Fate universe. Because I don't know if we'll have another Terminator at some point, but I want to see like where these like somebody writes an ongoing series, maybe not the same there's an ongoing comic series of both of them, and then at some point in the end like they both merge. And it's just like, what are you? What are you? It's like, oh, we're like, trying to reboot the series. It's like, oh, that's what we're doing as well.
Oh no.
And they cross over. It's like, what the hey?
Oh, but you say you don't know if another one's coming. Didn't you hear that James Cameron, now that he had that big success, oh, he's gonna pump another one out.
Okay, well, he says that, but yet we also found out that Disney pushed his projects back a lot.
Yeah, because of the writer's strike.
Yes.
Maybe he's not part of the Writers Guild.
That's the thing, though, because wasn't his movies like three, like at least for all intents and purposes, and let's say like I trust the sources at least. For all intents and purposes, James Cameron says like three is pretty much like post production stuff. That's all it is.
Yeah, I kind of wondered if maybe because I've again, according to I think it was during our solo discussion that Steve was mentioning that they're pretty strapped for money. So maybe they were relying on the next few releases for them to have the money to complete the post production for three. And so maybe they're like, okay, we don't have the money we need to see this project through, so let's sit on, wait until we can get this stuff. I don't know.
Hence the reason we have is Toy Story 5.
Oh wow, it's another one coming.
Yeah, there's another one coming, and
It might be good. Four was great. Four was quite good.
just like
I know you're disaffected,
I
but
well, just like putting that to like could if my scatterbrained conspiracy theory mind is correct, if it is what Steve said of like strap for money to Toy Story 5, I wouldn't like. Well, then they'd also make like Cars 4. Like, why not?
mm. Oh, but just to start to wind this down, I'll say again, it's not a long running series. It's a movie series that was on its third entry, and with movies, three movies in, that's been like probably like an 8 year span on average, I would think, for movies. So in that way, it's kind of a long period of time. And most series, the third one starts to be like, okay, we're getting a little bit too big here. It's time to move away from this. But Men in Black 3 did the time travel bit.
They did.
So,
Yep. I forgot. I would have never thought of that. You're absolutely right. They did that.
yeah, so I don't know if I can think of any other ones, but that's what I got for now.
Days of Future Past doesn't count because that was a comic storyline, and
Oh,
that's like I don't know.
it kind of fits too.
It does fit, but I'm like not putting comics on there because I mean the original one itself was not anything. It was like an episode, like it was just like like a regular issue,
Yeah.
and then like they forgot about that whole plot until they really built it up, and it was like, oh, this is the most important moment in X-Men ever.
Yeah, like I don't know if I mentioned Star Trek yet, but I don't feel like we can fully count that either because time travel's been there since very early on as
It's
well.
weird because
Although I guess the Abrams one fits too.
I'm talking about TOS and Next Gen and everything pre Abrams and everything like Kurtzman stuff.
But if you want to add in that slight factor of it kind of rebooting, I mean that is what that J.J. Abrams 2009 one was. Time travel plot that changed to set up a new future.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. I mean, I I guess so. To just, I mean, they didn't need to do that, but like, okay,
Yeah, and that's what I've always said. I was like, they should just rebooted. They shouldn't have rebooted in canon because then it created weird problems.
yeah, you can just like, I think people would be fine with that if you did it movie wise, because Star Trek's always been a TV series, so like it's been a television series, so like I think a lot of fans would have been okay with like, all right, this isn't like our Star Trek, but at least it's not inserting itself in the canon.
Yeah.
Like you could have still had Leonard Nimoy come in and play a Vulcan, just not Spock.
Yeah, and I do think I'm the odd man out. I think a lot of Star Wars or Star Trek fans love that movie, and they love the way that it stays within continuity. Yeah, not for me, but
I'm not a fan of that, and like, and I'm
yeah,
very like, I'm appreciative of Star Trek. I mean, I guess I'd say I'm a fan of TOS and Next Gen and probably some of the other ones, but like, I'm not as devoted as everybody else is. But I didn't like those films. I love Beyond
yeah.
because it feels like an actual film. I didn't like Into Darkness for how like so much it was trying to be Wrath of Khan.
Oh God, see that's when it starts to create problems. Why is Khan suddenly a white man if it's the same continuity?
Well,
Maybe it's the Flash rules. Maybe time ripples.
come on. Everybody knows why. J.J. Abrams was uncomfortable with having a person of color be the villain.
Oh come on.
Even though, again, this is probably unverified, but even apparently, like TV Tropes claims that like people, like Indian people, like Khan. I'm like, or at least I was like, yeah, like,
Cumberbatch.
yeah, no, like
Oh okay.
Montalban, not
Mm,
Montalban, excuse me. Sorry, the real Khan.
yeah,
Yeah, even though he's not Indian at all, but like they're just like,
yeah.
he's the guy who fought Kirk and pretty much was his equal, his rival. So it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, why can't we like this guy? It's like, yeah, I guess they make a point of the original Khan.
Yeah, and that's how it was in the days before rampant representation. People would just take whatever they can get, even if they're played by a different race. Like Charlie Chan
Ugh.
was loved at the time, and yeah, of course now reviled. But
Yeah, that's. I mean, again, I'm with you on like both sides. Like, yeah, it's definitely something that we could. It would be interesting if we made another Charlie Chan movie one day,
I would love it.
played by Chinese guys, of course. But
I would love to see that, but but I understand why they would avoid it. And it's difficult, I think, for people in this modern day and age to really understand what that experience would have been back then. Just, yeah, never really getting representation. Then even the stuff that you're getting, if it's imperfect, it's still like, wow, there's still a part of me represented on screen that I never get to see. That's that's so foreign to a lot of folks now, with much more rampant representation, to the point that they quibble about the imperfections of it. But back then, it was just like, I'll accept whatever I can get.
I will not say anything over that because it's not my. It's not. There's nothing for me to say because I don't think I have any place in that argument.
Well, I'll mention an example that me and Sean got into a big discussion with this with Eric, and we were talking about LGBT representation back in the day,
That's an important one.
and I said that I would always, growing up when I would see these embarrassing gay stereotypes, and I was mentioning The Rock because I just watched that, where we had this barber character. They never said he was gay, but he was the typical over effeminate, kind of embarrassing stereotype that they used to give us. And I was like, that's what we used to get in the pre-woke days. They were just throwing characters like this in the 90s. And Sean brought up, I think it was Harvey Firestein. Do you know what that is?
Please tell me that's supposed to be like a spoof on Weinstein.
I don't think so. I think that's his
Oh, okay.
name.
Okay. Oh, okay. Just wow, very similar name. No, I'm not familiar with Harvey Feinstein.
Oh, Firestein, I think.
Firestein, excuse me.
Yeah, he's got a very distinct voice. He used to show up in the Disney movies. He's in Independence Day. I think he played. Oh, who did he play? It may have been. I don't know. Either way, he popped up a ton of those old Disney movies. And he said, as a gay man in the 70s looking for representation, he didn't care. He'd be like, give me the gay stereotypes. Give me, I like the sissy, he said, because at least that's a piece of me, represented on screen. That's something that I think that's so sad to be in that position. But is it fair to say it's sad? Because it, at least gave those people something at the time.
Yeah, I feel uncomfortable. Like I don't feel like I feel like I'm walking on a plane of nails, and some of the nails are going down and up, so I'm gonna like eventually get a nail through my foot, because it's like, I mean, I gotta obviously say something. I have to have an opinion over this, but it's just like, I am not a gay guy. Sure, I can find some guys attractive, but I wouldn't like immediately say I'm gay. So it's like, I don't want to empathize, nor I can sympathize with any person in that like situation, but like again, like how do I like approach this man? Like, what can I say of like, I'm sorry? That also seems a bit like facetious. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and of course, representation now is improved dramatically. So, it's there was a clear turnaround, but it just took a long time.
Who was it? Who one of the I think it was one of the characters in what was that Robert the Alfred Hitchcock film?
Mm.
Is it Rope? No, D- Dinner? No, whatever the one between the two guys.
Rope. Yeah, yeah. I think you're thinking of that one.
Rope. Yeah, thank you. One of the actors, I think he was in. I think it was one. I think it was him. One of the two leads. He was on an episode of Perry Mason, and oh boy, like he made the character stand out for me, because he was like, he had this like personality, this charm, this like the tone of his voice. Like, you could just tell that he was a different kind of person. Like, he was there, like his character was just a different kind of character than everybody else around him. Especially in like the 60s or the 50s when that was shot. It was, I love that character a lot. Like it was so memorable, and like the character may not have been gay, but just like the fact that he was, I don't know, just like had a different personality than everybody else around him. I was like, oh, I like this guy a lot.
Yeah, would you say he felt a little like coded gay?
Oh, I think he probably was coded gay, but I still think the character is memorable. But
Hmm.
yeah, hopefully I'm not crossing any lines here, or like stepping on eggshells by saying
Yeah, and,
this.
and back in that time when that stuff was like literally unacceptable, it's like
Yes.
you're not going to put that on TV or even in the films. Yeah, they had to do that kind of coding, and that was how they hid their representation. Like Rope, it's definitely all about these are two gay dudes, and they're committing their crime. That's kind of the murder. Is these two guys, and in a way, Rope is a little bit. It maybe has a more negative homosexual commentary now, because it's like, yeah, these two guys coming together to do their thing in private, and their thing in that is murder, and they're both so exhilarated by doing it, and one of them's more nervous about, like, oh no, maybe we shouldn't do things that aren't accepted by society. And yeah, there's definitely an interesting commentary there that I would like to discuss one day. But
Yeah, it's quite a complicated idea, and
yeah,
cannot be discussed literally, like, with between the both of us here and now, at least, because we got to prepare
yeah,
ourselves for that. But
yeah, and I was mentioning to Eric in that conversation as well. Growing up as a kid, I always knew I was bi, and there was the first time I ever saw bi representation on screen was in Doctor Who, the new series. This character, Captain Jack Harkness. That was like 2005, 6 when I would have seen that, and that was there was nothing before that, and even still, I feel like it's less common to see that than just straightforward either gay or lesbian. I feel like bi representation is still a little bit lagging, but not nowhere near as bad as it used to be. But I just wanted to comment that. But
yeah, I mean, I don't. This is weird. Maybe I like just don't have all my ideas to like argue for, but I don't know if I'd ever. Do I want to see like an autistic protagonist or something like that? I don't know. Like, I never feel like I need to see one. I mean, I don't hate my autism, if that makes sense, but at the same time, I wouldn't want anybody else to have it. Does that make sense?
mm-hmm.
Like, this is a little different though, because like it's a whole thing with my brain pattern, my brain chemistry, that like makes me different from what is presumed normal, right? So like I just have to deal with and live with it, right? So I I'm used to, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to have it. I guess I don't know, like, but I can't do anything about it, right? Does this make sense, or is it weird?
Uh, it makes sense, yeah, but yeah, it's hard to.
It is not because of media that is telling me that I shouldn't be autistic. It is just me myself having experienced it. I don't like having it.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever discussed this, but I know that when this Barry Allen Flash was debuted, there was a lot of discussion whether people thought that he, that character was coded as being on the spectrum. I don't know if we ever talked about it, but
Do you mean Ezra Miller or
yeah,
their
that
version of him?
their Flash, yeah,
Oh, I mean, that's a whole other thing of like people projecting saying, "Oh, he's autistic." Just like,
yeah, that could be, yeah, that's true.
and I'm always for the whole. I guess I could say this freely. It's like never self-diagnose because that's like you're totally biased. Like get somebody else who's unbiased to do it for you, and maybe leave the experts to do it instead. Because like,
Yeah, I got the sense that people who were saying that were people looking for representation, and they were putting that onto that Barry Allen. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but
fair
it's
enough.
been a while since that that movie came out. Whenever when he debuted,
Yeah,
is that like 2016?
2017. I mean, he was in cameras in
Yeah,
BVS,
you're
but
right.
like
Yeah,
it came out in
2017.
2017. Jinx. I don't know. Like, I'm not. I feel like there'd be different responses to what I just said, and people
Yeah,
will obviously have different opinions of that. Again, I'm not. I'm talking about myself. I am literally not talking about anybody else here because I think everybody else has different um opinions about like if they're autistic or not, and it's like
yeah,
again, I don't hate it. I don't like live every day wanting to kill myself because of it, but it's just like, yeah, but I wouldn't want it. Right?
and now I feel like I'm the one walking on those. What'd you say it was?
I know it's I'm sorry. I don't want to put like yeah, on eggshells or on
Yeah,
nails on beds of nails, but the nails are like retracting and retracting. So like I are attracted to. So like yeah, I'm sorry. Like I mean I feel like I'm offending people, but it's like but I'm also talking about but it's not again,
yeah,
it's
your own personal experience.
yeah, this is all from myself, not from media telling me what's what. Like it's awful that like so many people are still misinformed about how different people on the spectrum operate.
Yeah,
It's horrible and vile, but
it's because society's so desperate to put people in boxes. Oh, you align with this group, you must feel the exact same way as the rest of people in that group.
oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, and that's definitely not how things work. So
Yeah, again, it's not a disease, don't worry, but it literally is just like a difference in brain patterns and chemistry. So blood's the same as everybody else. That's fine. It's just how my brain operates. That's like, yeah, I wouldn't want it.
hmm.
But there you go. Isaac in the other multiverse where he doesn't have autism, how different is he from this one?
Oh, that's interesting. Now this podcast is going to the time travel in the multiverse. Oh no.
And I'm sorry, people, if that was uncomfortable. I apologize.
Yeah, we're touching on some more serious subjects here. So if you're into that, or if you're not,
Yeah.
there's plenty of other podcasts that we put out to listen to.
And if you cancel me and say you should be proud of your autism, it's like, okay.
Yeah, nobody's canceling around here, but
Yeah, that's fair. We were canceled to begin with.
no, we weren't canceled at all. But well, I guess just to cancel us. No, I'm just kidding. But
Yeah, that's fair.
there was one thing I wanted to mention. I thought this was quite funny.
Just one more thing.
So I just finished up going through all the Roger Moore films, and during my big James Bond watch through that I've been doing for the past few months, I've also been checking out some of the parodies and the ripoffs from the 60s. And one of the ones that I watched was called Carry On Spying, an entry from the infamous Carry On films. I think there was like 23 of them, British comedies, usually quite ludicrous. And this one, partway through it, all the spies they were in, I think it was Casablanca, and one of them was trying to hide, and they laid on this bed of nails, and some guy came running over. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Get off my bed!" And it's supposed to be like, ha ha ha. I guess the guys in India, they do that. And so I was like, okay, there's that joke there. Lots of humor that might not be acceptable today in that
Yeah,
film.
like that could work as a visual gag, but like if it's done as a stereotype or like what is it, enforcing a stereotype, yeah, then maybe it doesn't work.
And then in the Roger Moore film, Octopussy, they did the exact same gag. It's the exact. I
Oh
was
my.
shocked.
Oh
I was
boy.
like, was this a reference to that Carry On film? Except this time, I think Roger Moore threw a villain onto the bed and killed him. And then a man came over. He's like, "What are you doing? Get off my bed!" I was just like, "Wow, I just saw this 2 weeks ago in that
Oh
Carry On
my.
film."
Oh my. Um, was that in the book?
No octopus. No, nothing like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, all those movies are so far away from the books. Yeah, there's next to no connection.
No, of course not. Hey, I just had to ask.
Yeah, fair enough. But that's all I got. I just wanted to mention that oddity.
That's fair. Well, that's fair. All right. Bar's closed, everybody. You can't stay here. You can go where you want, but you can't stay here.
Yep, we got a bed of nails outside. Go sleep out there on that.
Hey,
Oh no.
that's for like that's my bed. What are you talking about?
Oh no. But yeah, I've enjoyed talking with you, Isaac, as I always do, and thanks for paying for the drinks tonight. Put on your tab.
Pay. Well, we own this place.
There you go. Put it on the mortgage tab.
Oh, great. We already have like 3 mortgages we have to pay for.
I thought it was only 2.
Yeah, about that.
Oh no. I've got something but it wouldn't be part of the speakeasy. It'd be after.
Oh, after. Interesting. Oh, for you and I to talk about. Okay, no, that's fair.
Yeah, like production stuff. Yeah.
Production stuff. That makes sense. Uh-oh. We got a budget problem.
Yeah. Yeah, the bar.
Oh, this sucks. I'm getting cut. Oh, great. All right, that's it.
Yeah, I gotta make some future endeavors for the WWE talk.
Oh, dang, I forgot about that stuff.
Yeah.
Missed opportunities.